All right, church family, thank you for tuning in with us this evening. We're getting lots of good questions coming through the comment section about the candy line, and so Derek's going to get those questions answered out to you here shortly if he hasn't already. I want to talk to you about Zoom connection groups. So many of you are already involved in a connection group already on Sunday morning, which is great. And I strongly recommend, if you are not in a connection group, that this be the time that you try out several different groups in order to see which one works best for you. And what we are doing for the month of May, and what looks like will be at least through the foreseeable part of the summer, just because of the necessity of safe assembly meetings, is we are taking all of our connection groups to Zoom on Wednesday evenings. Okay. All of our connection groups are going to flow through Zooms on Wednesday evenings. So what that means is that we're going to do our Bible study, which is walking through the book of Psalms. We're going to do that on Tuesday nights. So Tuesday nights will be Bible study in the book of Psalms. Wednesday nights, we will not have a Facebook live feed put on for the church, because we are encouraging all the members of the church to be in a Zoom meeting. We've contacted all of our adult Sunday school leaders already. We've heard back from, I think, 97% of them that they are willing to host a meeting. We'll have Zoom meetings in Spanish. We're going to have Zoom meetings in Korean. We're going to have Zoom meetings in Khmer. We're going to have Zoom meetings in English. And then those Zoom meetings in English are going to be for every adult Sunday school class, and then also for the teen classes, okay? So some Zoom meetings are already meeting on Sunday morning. And for this coming Sunday, they will remain that way. But on Wednesday night at 7 o'clock, they will meet then as well. And then from Wednesday on forward, they will meet every Wednesday on Zoom streaming. So what that means for you is, it means, first of all, if you haven't already heard from your connection group leader, you will, in the next several days, hear from him on the instruction, or from her, on the instruction for how you can participate in that Zoom class, okay? So not Zumba, but Zoom, all right? So that Zoom connection group class. So how you can participate, you'll hear from your connection group leader. If you are not in a connection group, so you haven't had the ability or the opportunity to join a class yet, this is the perfect time to join. And what I would tell you is, you can make a comment in the comment section about which classes are available, or just stay tuned to the Facebook page and the web page as we make all of those adult classes available in the next several days. So we'll list those classes out onto our Facebook pages and website on Saturday, beginning Saturday afternoon. We'll announce it again on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So you have 4 or 5 days in order to get the information. If once you see the classes, you say, I'd like to sign up for that class, then we're going to ask you just to send us an email or just call the church office, and we will give your information to the connection group leader, and that teacher will get you the necessary information. So I know that sounds like a lot at the very beginning of this conversation, but it's very, very necessary for us to be able to still find connection group in small group settings for our own personal health, okay, and for our spiritual health. So while it's good for us to gather together and study one big passage of Scripture, and for all of us to look into Psalms, which we're going to keep doing that kind of stuff, while that's important for us to do, we also recognize it's very important for us to have face-to-face interaction and face-to-face conversation with the members of our church community. I'm going to imagine at this point, Zoom is not unfamiliar to most people. We've all probably done it in some way or the other, required to do it for work. I was on 2 different Zoom meetings today with pastors and lawyers and politicians and all kinds of other people, trying to get some kind of idea of when we're going to be able to be together. So just suffice it to say that it's going to be a necessary part of that fellowship aspect of our church. Because I know that you, probably like me, really miss that interaction. That ability to ask a question and listen to answers. That ability to see people's faces. That ability to watch a smile. That kind of opportunity is what the Zoom classes will afford for us as we move forward into May, as we go into June, okay? So we want to make sure that we're affording all of those options and all those things. If you have a question about any of that stuff that I just talked about, what I would encourage you to do is reach out to your deacon, reach out to one of us as staff members, or reach out to your connection group leader, okay? So just, you can shoot them a text message or a phone call, and you can say, hey, Pastor's talking about restarting our connection groups just by way of Zoom on Wednesday. What does that look like for our group? What does that look like for me? How can I be a part of that? And if you need help setting that up, our staff is willing and available and more than capable of being able to come and help set up the Zoom meetings on your device so that you can have that as a format. Okay, so it's going to be very important for us to be able to communicate that way. And I would encourage you this way too, because some of you right now, you're ministering to people who you know they don't have that ability, they don't have that technology. Pastor, that's way over their head. Okay, well, you reach out to them. Don't wait for them to call you. You reach out to them and start the conversation. Hey, do you need me to come over and help set something up? We have a lot of our adult leaders who are coming down to the church in the next several days. They're going to meet with several of our staff members, and our staff is going to kind of coach them through how they get a Zoom meeting set up, and they get it set up the right way, and et cetera. So if you need help with that, our staff is willing to help, and we're willing to facilitate that for you during this time. And I'm going to tell you why this is important. Because this is the lesson. I want you to go to Ecclesiastes chapter 4. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, and I want to show you a principle that Solomon teaches. What I've really enjoyed about this, about coming to you this way, is it's afforded me opportunities to show you lessons that I've learned in my own life along the way that have been really transformative to my own spiritual health, to my emotional state, mental state, and even the relational state that I've had with people. And the lesson I'm going to teach you tonight is a lesson I learned while I was going through a very difficult season. The importance of having a good friend. A good friend. We are hardwired for friendship. All of us need a friend. Every one of us need that close personal friend. And I've told you this before. You'll get maybe 5 like really good friends in your life. People that you can say anything to. People who you respect what they would say back to you. People whose life you speak into theirs, they speak into yours. People who aren't with you just for a small season, but people who are with you for decades. You can remember to high school when you had your best friend, right? And just as you look back at that best friend from high school, chances are you have some kind of interaction with them through social media. That's just the day and age in which we live. You have some kind of interaction with them through social media, but not like personal, not intimate. Not like they come to your kids' soccer games, you go to their kids' soccer games. They know your kids' names, you know their kids' names. You buy them Christmas presents, they buy you Christmas presents. When your family gets together, they come over because they are family. Like that kind of friend is what I'm talking about. We are hardwired by God for that kind of relationship, to need that kind of friendship in our life. I want to show you this, Ecclesiastes, and I'm in chapter 4, and watch what he says. Here's what he says. Verse number 8. There is one alone, and there is not a second. Yea, he hath neither child nor brother, yet there is no end of all of his labor, and neither is his eye satisfied with riches. And neither saith he, for whom do I labor, and bereave my soul of good? This is also vanity, yea, it's a sore travail. 2 are better than 1. Because they have a good reward for their labor. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. We keep going, verse 11. Again, if 2 lie together, then they have heat, but how can one be warm alone? For if one prevail against him, 2 shall withstand him, and a 3-fold cord is not quickly broken. So Solomon here teaches a lesson about friendship. I have a sermon that I preach about friendship on this passage. And the title of my sermon is, You've Got a Friend in Me. Like the reference to Buzz Lightyear and that cowboy Woody, right? You got a friend in me. And that's exactly what this passage is talking about. Solomon is talking about the benefit of having a friend. The benefit of having not just an acquaintance, not just somebody who encourages you, not just somebody who's a blessing to you, but a friend. And notice, a true friend increases productivity. That's what he tells you here. That's what he tells you in verse 9. Two are better than one because there's a good reward for their labor. A good friend reduces vulnerability. That's what he tells you in verse 10. For if they fall, the one will lift up his fellow, but woe to him that is alone when he falleth, for he hath not another to help him up. So a good friend is there for you when you face temptation or when you face hard time. A good friend is there for you when you make a mistake. A good friend is there for you when you fail, when you stumble. A good friend is there for you when you just mess up in life, because we all have mess ups. That's not all he says. He says in verse 11, he says, again, if two lie together, then they have heat, but how can one be warm alone? A good friend provides comfort. That's what that verse is talking about. A good friend is there to provide comfort for you in your time of need. He's helping you pick up the pieces. Look at verse 12. If one prevail against him, two shall withstand him. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. A good friend ensures security. He provides safety, because if you're by yourself, well, somebody can get you from the backside. But if somebody's watching your backside and it's just two of you, well, they could attack you from the side. But if there's three of you back to back standing together, man, that kind of relationship, man, they can withstand anyone. That's what he's saying. They can fight off anyone in that sense. This is what he's talking about here. Solomon writes the book of Ecclesiastes. Solomon, the wisest man in all the world. Do you know who Solomon's father was? Solomon's father was David. This got me thinking, where did Solomon learn the benefit of having a friend? And he learned it from his dad, David. He writes about it all through the book of Proverbs. He even talks about it right here. There's three kinds of friends that David had. There are three Ecclesiastes 4 friends David had. Samuel, Jonathan, Nathan. Samuel, Jonathan, Nathan. Three kinds of friends that you need in your life. You need a Samuel. You know what Samuel does for David? Samuel sees a shepherd boy and he crowns him king. Samuel saw something in David that nobody else saw. Samuel believed God was blessing David in a way that nobody else could see. Samuel encourages David, lifts up David, crowns David. You need a friend who helps you do everything that God has called you to do. You need a Samuel. Samuel makes David a better version of David. It's not just Samuel, though, that David has. David has a Jonathan. You know, Jonathan, that faithful friend to David, when, if you think about it, was actually a personal cost to Jonathan. Jonathan was set to be the next one in line, and that's actually one of the reasons why Saul hates David so much, is because he sees David as a threat to his family keeping the throne, in particular, Jonathan. And so Jonathan is willing to befriend David even when it cost Jonathan something personally. Jonathan recognizes, David, God is doing something special with you, and I could be selfish and want that for myself, but instead I'm going to be a friend who decides to lift you up to support you. Man, Samuel crowns Jonathan, or Samuel crowns David. He's a good friend. Jonathan supports and encourages David. He is a good friend. Even when things are going terrible in David's life, Jonathan is there. I love that. One of my favorite lines from Tolkien, he's one of my favorite authors, but one of my favorite lines from Tolkien is, he is no friend who says farewell when the road darkens. Everybody's abandoning David, running from David. Saul's trying to spear David to the wall. And you know the one guy walking in when everybody else walks out? Jonathan. Man, Samuel is a friend. Jonathan is a friend. How about this friend? Nathan. Now, you don't immediately think of Nathan as a friend. You might think Joab, but you don't really need any Joabs. Joab actually turned out to be not a very good friend to David. You don't need a Joab. You need a Nathan. You know how Nathan befriended David? And Nathan was willing to confront David. When David had sinned against Bathsheba, he saw to the murder of Bathsheba's wife. He brought Bathsheba into his own. And what does Nathan do? Thou art the man, David. No. This was you. This was your doing, David. He confronted David. Faithful are the wounds of a friend. The kisses of an enemy are deceitful. I want to talk about that for a second. You have to be careful walking around always wounding somebody, because you may see your relationship with them as a Nathan and a David, but they may see your relationship as Samuel and David or Jonathan and David. They still count you as a friend. They just don't count you as that kind of a friend. So who in your life have you counted as a Nathan kind of a friend? I have a handful of pastors who I've asked them to be Nathans to me. They know Amanda. They know my kids. They talk to my kids and Amanda regularly. Sometimes they talk to them together with me. Sometimes they call them when I don't even know. They call and check on me. I have a pastor friend who called Amanda to say, how's David doing? What's he up to? How much is he working? How late's he staying? How's he fathering? How's he husbanding? How's he pastoring? I give him that permission to speak into my life. But I don't want everybody calling Amanda doing that. So who have you deputized as a Nathan? Who have you deputized as a Jonathan? Who have you deputized as a Samuel? You see, we all need these kinds of friends in our life. And if you're saying, Pastor, I want that kind of friend in my life, I just don't know how to get them. Here's the answer. If you want that kind of a friend, be that kind of a friend. I've told you over and over, you have as many friends at church as you want to have. You have as many friends at church as you want to have. But are you willing to show yourself that kind of a friend? And one of the ways you show yourself as that kind of a friend is by getting involved in individual lives. And the best way to do that at this church, at this time, is through the Zoom connection group classes. If you are not a part of one, sign up to be a part of one. I want to see you there. I want you to have those kind of deep friendships. I want you to know the benefit of having a Samuel, a Jonathan, and a Nathan in your life that cause you to be the better version of yourself that God's calling you to be. All right, church, I sure do love you and appreciate you. I am sorry if you heard a whole bunch of noise. I don't know what was going on Pine Street, but there was all kinds of cars driving by the street, and they're honking, causing all kinds of ruckus, yelling. I think we'll figure out what's going on. Maybe they thought the drive-by candy was tonight. Maybe they thought they were getting there. I said it wrong so many times. Maybe they thought it was tonight. So we'll get it all figured out. Drive-by candy was not tonight. Drive-by candy's Sunday, man. Sunday. All right. So church family, we sure do love you. Man, let's look for ways we can be a friend. And we'll see you right back here tomorrow night for some charades. All right. It's going to be a blast. Put your top 4 in the comment section. Love you, church family. God bless you.